Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Good morning."
All counsel said, "Good morning, Your Honor."
The court said, "Would you make your appearance, please?"
Ms. Murray said, "Good morning, Your Honor." Juliana Murray and Micah Ferguson on behalf of the United States. We're joined by paralegal specialist Isabel Loftus.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Good morning, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Kwok, Sabrina Shroff, Sid Kumraju, and Scott Skirick, and Jorge Salazar."
The court said, "Please be seated. Very early this morning I received a letter from Bess Fung, and she claims that her father, Henry Fung, was victim of the GTV scam, and asking to testify on his behalf, and if that's not possible, having the father testify. So I am going to have that letter uploaded to the docket. Is there anything you'd like to tell me about?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Yes, Your Honor. One matter from the government. The government expects that a Morgan Stanley employee will testify today. Her name is Elizabeth Bursler. She was an account associate for the G Club's account at Morgan Stanley. The thrust of her testimony concerns wire transfer requests that G Clubs made. Specifically, they requested a £10 million sterling British pound transfer to Fiesta Properties Development Limited in the UK. That was pursuant to what was represented to be a loan agreement for that amount between G Clubs and Fiesta. Morgan Stanley made, I think, ultimately 4 wire transfers pursuant to that request to transfer the balance of the $10 million to Fiesta. In connection with those requests, Morgan Stanley's Fraud Operations Department flagged the initial wire and requested that Ms. Bursler obtain the purpose of the wire from the client. She did so. The purpose was represented to be a loan agreement so that Fiesta could make a real estate property purchase. That wasn't true. The Fiesta money was used to buy a $4.5 million Ferrari for Mr. Gua's son, Milson Gua, or Chang Gua. And I flagged this for Your Honor because we would like to ask. In order to prove materiality of the bank fraud object of our 1349 count, ask the witness, if she had known that the purpose provided to her was not how the funds would actually be used, would she have processed the wire transfer? And I wanted to raise that in advance for Your Honor, given our prior discussions on it. That was the subject of our motion in limine, where we asked to be able to ask such questions to victims and banks in order to prove materiality. Banks in particular, for the 1349 object of bank fraud.
Mr. Skirick said, "Your Honor, I won't go through the defenses, factual disputes with Mr. Ferguson's characterization of that transaction. Suffice it to say we don't agree that that's correct. Having said that, I think with respect to the materiality question, the defense's position is twofold. 1, it's unclear to us, at least, that this witness had any authority whatsoever to either approve or disapprove or decline to give approval for this particular transaction. Our understanding is that that approval authority rested with other parts of the bank and that this witness cannot testify to that. So that's a foundational issue number 1. And number 2, to the extent that the court does permit this testimony, we would just ask that we have reciprocal ability to ask similar hypothetical questions."
The court said, "So do you know whether she had decision-making authority? Because if she did not, then the question would be, had you known this, would you have reported this to your superiors?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Yes, Your Honor, and I think Your Honor hit the nail on the head with the follow-up question. As would happen at a large bank, she's one link in the chain of approving a wire transfer. So she receives the misrep and then she conveys it to fraud operations, which then approves the wire transfer. So, I think that suffices. That's enough."
The court said, "So I will permit first a question as to her decision-making authority, her role, and a question in which you ask had she known that the purpose was the purchase of the car, would she have given that information to whomever it is that she would have given it to?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Understood. I'm not sure what the other hypothetical questions may be, Your Honor. I guess we can see. We can address them as they come up from the defense."
The court said, "Okay."
Mr. Skirick said, "Nothing further if the court is fine with that, leaving the hypothetical issue there. We can take it up in real time."
Ms. Shrofa said, May I, Your Honor?
The court said yes, you may. Go ahead.
Ms. Shrofa said, as to Ms. Fung, the defense has no position, just to close that loop. Thank you. I did have one additional matter to raise regarding the first witness, through whom the government seeks to introduce various photographs, and they're not seeking to admit the underlying seizure of the material, simply the photographs. So part of the photographs that they seek to introduce at trial are several boxes of scarves and personal items that were found in Ms. Wang's apartment. Another group of photographs of Ms. Wang's apartment itself. And then the third group of photographs seem to concern cash that was seized/found in her apartment. I understand that this is a conspiracy case. Nevertheless, it is the defense's position that seeking to introduce photographs of the material seized would be 1. Improper based on relevance. 2. Photographs themselves are simply evidence of the photograph, not the underlying seizure. But 3. On the matter especially of the credit cards and the cash. The government wants to introduce them without providing the defense with a witness that could be crossed. So the 3500 material for the witness itself says she had no role to play in any of the seizure. She simply took the photograph. So if the court were to allow into evidence, over my objection, for example, the cash, I would not be able to cross-examine because the witness would simply say, I don't know. I would not be able to elicit from the witness the fact that the cash is dated as far back as 2013, a fact that the government is aware of, because it was flagged for them during Ms. Wang's bail application, and there was an affidavit introduced by Ms. Wang's lawyer saying that he had gone to their offices. Examine the cash, the denominations of the notes itself go as far back as 2013. So normally, I would understand that the court would say, well, they're admissible, Ms. Shroff, you can cross on weight. But I don't have a witness whom I can cross because she's the one who just took the photographs.
The court said, so you understand that the prosecution wishes to use these photographs as fruits of the alleged fraud.
Ms. Shrofa said, sure, but...
The court said, and so you have not challenged the legality of the seizure.
Ms. Shrofa said, I can't. I don't have standing. It's not my client's home, it's Ms. Wang's home.
The court said, and Ms. Wang has pleaded guilty.
Ms. Shrofa said, right.
The court said, I'll hear from the prosecution.
Ms. Murray said, yes, Your Honor. We believe that all of those categories of photographs reflecting the evidence from the search warrant should come in. As to the first category, well, initial matter. There is a stipulation between the parties as to the photographs, both that the photographs from the search are true and accurate photographs that were taken on that day pursuant to a lawful premises search. And then as to the photographs of the items that were seized. That those were photographs of items that were lawfully seized. And those photos were taken either on the day of the search or later by someone who participated in the lawful seizure of those items. It's for efficiency that the government seeks to introduce these photographs through one witness in order to bring in the search instead of calling multiple witnesses who can speak to the actual item seized. Parading in boxes of the items that were actually seized. And there's no question as to the authenticity of any of these photographs or what they represent. The parties have stipulated to that. With respect to the photographs of boxes of Hermès scarves and bags, the government argues that those are fruits of the fraud that's charged. Those are very expensive items. There's something that has been litigated in Ms. Wang's bail as items that she purchased that were during the charged conspiracy that were high-value items. There's no reason to prohibit the government from bringing those in. I'm not sure the basis, if any, for excluding photographs of the apartment. That's just establishing the area that was actually searched pursuant to the warrant. And then with respect to the cash, it was approximately $138,000 in bulk cash that was seized from the safe. Ms. Shroff is correct, there was argument with respect to Ms. Wang. Her counsel came to the FBI's offices, inspected every bill of the cash. The fact that some of the money was brought into circulation in 2013. It's the government's contention, has absolutely no bearing on when it was actually obtained by Ms. Wang. I don't have a dollar bill on me right now, but I suspect that if I looked at cash that I had in hand, It would not all be dated 2024. Which is to say that money is in circulation and it is fungible and it comes in and out. And the fact of the issuance of those bills has no bearing on the government's contention, and specifically. The government's contention is that a large amount of bulk cash was taken from a safe pursuant to a lawful seizure warrant. So we don't see any basis to exclude our introducing that.
The court said. And the witness, what relationship does she have to the seizure?
Ms. Murray said, the witness was the photographer, so she was present. It's like one of the other witnesses that we had for a prior lawful premises search. She was present and took the photos during the search. And again, Your Honor, we do have a stipulation as to the photos, both the photos from the search and the photos of the item seized.
The court said. I'm going to admit the photos.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may I just want to make sure that I put on the record the following. I did not argue authenticity of any of the material or the photographs. My argument was simply to relevance. And just to go back to what Ms. Murray is saying to the court, yes. I too have a dollar bill in my pocket. It could be from 2013 or it could be from 2023. The point is, that's an equipoise. I would not be able to argue anything because I do not have a witness that I can cross. That's the point. Of course the bill could be in circulation. It could have been in circulation since 2019 or 2001 or 1984. That's not the point. The point is, I am unable to argue that, 1, because I don't have the correct witness, and 2, because I do not have the underlying notes. I do not have the dollar bills. I also just want to make sure that the court is aware that this matter was part of the docket. It is docket entry 81 to 18. The government has known about this argument since the filing of that particular docket number. And there are 16 separate stacks of cash. The review of the stacks of cash show that they range from 2013 to 2017. I would not be able to cross-examine on any of this. I also just note, in terms of the number of photographs the government seeks to introduce, it's 122 photographs. We have no objection to the photographs of the physical layout of the home. They believe that to be relevant. I don't see how. That's the court's ruling. I understand that. But to argue that everything in that apartment is a proceed of a fraud without providing to the defense a witness that can be crossed on that issue would not be fair to Mr. Gov't. And finally, just one point. Expediency for the government does not trump Mr. Kwok's rights to due process and the proper witness. So, for those reasons, we continue to object. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Murray said, and just briefly on that, Your Honor. I would note that Mr. Gov't does not have standing to challenge this search, nor has he challenged legality of the search. I would also note that we are aware that there will be a defense case. We're aware of that from recent conversations with the defense, so to the extent that they want to call a witness to challenge any of these issues, they may do so in their case.
The court said, okay, I've heard enough on the issue. I've heard enough argument on this issue. I am admitting the photographs. Is there anything else?
Ms. Shrofa said, No, Your Honor. I just think burden shifting would be against the law and the Constitution.
The court said, nothing further before we start at 9:30?
Mr. Kumraju said, not from the defense.
Ms. Murray said, not from the government.
The court said, all right. So if you'll have your next witness on the stand, or standing at least next to the stand by 9:29, please.
Ms. Murray said, will do.
Recess.
The court said, please have the jurors brought in.
Continued on next page. Jury present.
The court said, please be seated. Good morning, jurors, after a glorious day off.
The juror said, good morning.
The court said, we're going to start fresh with a new witness. Would the prosecution call its witness, please?
Mr. Horton said, Your Honor, the government calls Alexandra Gale.
Witness sworn.
The court said, would you state your name and spell it, please?
The witness said, Alexandra Gale, Alexandra, and the last name is Gale.
The court said, Ms. Gale, I'm going to need you to get very, very close to the microphone so that we can all hear you.
The witness said, okay, is that better?
The court said, that is better, but you can get even closer.
The witness said, "Okay."
The court said, "And Mr. Horton, I want you also to get close to the microphone so that we can hear."
Mr. Horton said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, "You may inquire."
Mr. Horton said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Alexandra Gale, called as a witness by the government, having been duly sworn, testified as follows. Direct examination. By Mr. Horton.
Good morning, Ms. Gale.
Good morning.
Where do you work?
The FBI in New York.
And what is your title at the FBI?
I'm a Staff Operations Specialist.
What office are you assigned to?
The New York Field Office.
And Ms. Gale, how long have you been with the FBI?
Approximately 5 years full-time.
What are your various duties as a Staff Operations Specialist at the FBI?
I'm more of a tactical analyst, so we do analysis of social media, telephones. Open source research kind of stuff.
And when, if ever, does your job require you to take pictures?
I am a collateral duty photographer.
And what does that mean, a collateral duty photographer?
So I'm a backup. If they need an extra person. If one of them is out of the office or if they have multiple locations on a search, then they'll ask me to do it.
And as a photographer for the FBI, what do you take photographs of?
Typically search warrant executions.
And what is a search warrant execution?
We will, if a squad gets a search warrant for a location. Then they're allowed to go in and search legally.
And what sort of training, if any, do you have to be an FBI photographer?
I learned from the FBI photographers that are full-time photographers. And they taught me by taking me out with them and doing their photo log, so I would see the way that they did photography in a search warrant. And then they would have me do it myself while they were there to make sure I was doing it correctly.
You said you learned in part by doing a photo log. What's a photo log?
It's a log that somebody on the search team will keep with the photographer. So every time the photographer takes a photo, the logger will write the number of the photo and what was taken in the photo.
Ms. Gale, I want to direct your attention to March 15, 2023. What, if anything, did you do at work that day?
I photographed a search.
And where was the location of the search that you photographed that day?
It was somewhere in Manhattan.
Do you remember what street it was on?
I think it was East 64th.
Did the FBI have a search warrant that day?
Yes.
And what did the search warrant allow the FBI to do?
Search the apartment that we had searched.
Mr. Horton said, Your Honor, at this time the government offers a stipulation that has been marked as GX Stip 4.
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit Stip 4 received in evidence.
Mr. Horton said, Could we publish it, please, Ms. Loftus? The document is entitled Stipulation Regarding Wong Apartment Search. And it says that the parties agree that if called as a witness at trial, a special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, would testify as follows, on March 15, 2023. Special agents and other FBI employees executed a lawful search of 188 East 64th Street, apartment 1601, New York, New York. During the course of that search, FBI personnel took photographs of interior space of 188 East 64th Street, apartment 1601. New York, New York, and also lawfully seized items, documents, and electronic devices. At the time of the search, Yvette Yenping Wang was the sole resident of 188 East 64th Street, apartment 1601, New York, New York. GXWA 135 are fair and accurate photographs of interior spaces of 188 East 64th Street that were lawfully captured by an FBI photographer on March 15, 2023. When conducting the search, GXWA 656 are fair and accurate images of documents and items that were located at 188 East 64th Street, apartment 1601. New York, New York, on March 15, 2023, during the search. It says, "It is further stipulated and agreed that this stipulation may be received into evidence." GXWA 1, 12. 14 through 79, I apologize. Let me correct that. 14 to 68, 69 to 79, 83 to 85, 89 to 92, 95 to 115, 123, 124, and 126 to 135. All of which are covered in the stipulation.
The court said, "They are admitted."
Government's exhibits WA1, WA12, WA14, WA68, WA69, WA79, WA83, WA85, WA89, WA92, WA95, WA115, WA123, WA124, and WA126, WA135 received in evidence.
Mr. Horton said, "Thank you, Ms. Loftus. You can take that down."
By Mr. Horton.
Ms. Gale, what was the first thing you did when you arrived at this apartment on March 15, 2023?
I spoke to the search team leader.
And what did you speak to her about?
We did a walkthrough of the apartment before I started taking photos to decide what to label each room.
And what happens before you do a walkthrough?
The agents on the search warrant will clear the apartment to make sure it's safe.
And what does it mean for agents to clear an apartment?
They'll go in and check if anyone is in there.
You said you did a walkthrough. Can you explain to the jury what a walkthrough is?
So basically we'll walk through the apartment and label each room. Typically in the order that they walk through it. So for example, if the kitchen is the first room, we'll label that A. So we walked through to see what the layout was, and then came back out of the apartment.
And after your walkthrough that morning, Ms. Gale, what did you do next?
We started entry photos.
And what do you mean by entry photos?
So before any searching happens, I take photographs of the entire apartment as is before we start touching anything.
During the walkthrough and during the entry photos, what, if anything, do you do, or what, if anything, did you do to items that you see in the apartment?
Nothing.
And what happened next after you took entry photos?
Then I tell the search team later that they're good to start searching.
And what do you do when the search is happening?
I will wait for somebody searching to ask me to take a photo of any evidence or important items that they might have found.
Are you ever able to take photos on your own? Let me withdraw that. Who decides what photos you take?
The searching agents or FBI staff.
And how does an agent ask you to take a photo?
They will just call my name and say, "Hey, can you come take a photo of this?"
Mr. Horton said, "Ms. Loftus, can you pull up what's in evidence as GXWA2? While that's coming up, Ms. Gale, were you the only person taking photos for the FBI that morning?"
Correct.
Mr. Horton said, "Okay. Can we please publish this, Ms. Loftus? Did you take this photo, Ms. Gale?"
I did.
What are we looking at here?
This is a picture of, I was standing in the hallway taking a photo with the door open of the first thing you see when you walk into the apartment.
And where in relation to this photo is the kitchen?
Just to the left.
Mr. Horton said, "Okay. Can we put up WA9, please, Ms. Loftus?"
The court said, "Are you saying that the door on the right is the front door?"
The witness said, "That's correct."
What room in the apartment was this photo taken in, Ms. Gale?
This is the kitchen.
And what does it show?
Looks like a number of phones charging, water bottle, fruit.
Are those the only phones you took photos of that morning?
I don't think so.
Mr. Horton said, "Could we pull up WA107? Did you take this photo, Ms. Gale?"
I did.
What does it show?
An Apple iPhone.
Is this one of the phones that was charging in the kitchen?
I don't know if it's the same one.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could pull up WA 15. What room in the apartment is this, Ms. Gale?
This is the bedroom.
And is this how it appeared when you entered that morning?
Yes.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, could you zoom in to the sort of center of the image? And if you could zoom in to the item in the middle of the screen. Was this item there when you came into the bedroom that morning, Ms. Gale?
Yes, it was.
And what is it?
Looks like a photo of a person.
Do you know who's in that photo?
I don't.
And what does it say, if anything, at the top of the photo?
The hero.
Mr. Horton said, okay. You can take that down, please, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Loftus, if you could put up at the same time WA 62-64. Please. Looking at the top left of your screen, WA 62, Ms. Gale, what are we looking at there? What's the frame around the outside?
This is a photo of an open safe, and you're looking at the contents of the safe.
And so where was the bag on the right found?
In that safe on the left.
What's depicted in the image at the bottom here, WA 64?
Cash.
And where was that cash found?
In the bag that was found in the safe.
What room in the apartment was the safe found in?
I believe it was the bedroom.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could take these down, please, and put up WA 41. Ms. Gale, what are we looking at here?
This is a clear organizer with paper clips, whiteout pens, and thumb drives.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, could you zoom in to the left side of the drawer, please? And what is shown on the flash drives, Ms. Gale?
2 of them have labels.
Do you know what MK is?
I don't.
Mr. Horton said, you can take that down, please, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Gale, did you take pictures of hard copy documents at this apartment?
Yes, I did.
And how did you decide which photos to take?
Whatever the searching agents and FBI professional staff asked me to take.
And where in the apartment were the hard copy documents that you took photos of?
I know there were some in the living room. I don't remember if there were others as well.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, can you pull up WA 20, please? If you could zoom in to the top of the document on the left side. Please, and highlight the to line and the date line, please. Ms. Gale, what kind of document is this?
It looks like a printed email.
And what are the names next to the email addresses in the to line?
Do you want me to read the email itself or just the name?
I'm sorry. Could you just read what's written next to the email addresses in the to line, please?
Latham space G and Max Krasner.
Do you know what Latham G means?
I don't.
And do you know who Max Krasner is?
I don't.
What's the date of this document?
Tuesday, March 14, 2023.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could zoom out and then capture the part from Dear Miss Gwa to the third photograph. If you could highlight the first sentence in that third paragraph, please. And then Ms. Gale, if you could read that, aloud.
It says, I have copied Mr. Max Krasner, whom I was regularly eye contact with for Whitecroft. On this reply.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, can you replace that with WA 109, please? And Ms. Loftus. If you could zoom into what's written on the item on the left, please. What does this image show, Ms. Gale?
It's a photo of a notepad with handwritten notes on it.
And what, if anything, is written at the top of the notepad on the left side?
The word Max.
Under that, there are lines that start with what look like hyphens. Could you just read the first word or acronym for each of those items from top to bottom under Max?
Yeah, it's GSNY, and then in parentheses, city. The next one is Geneva, GENEVER. The third one said leading. The fourth one says Greenwich LLC. And then the next one is SARACA. And then ROLS and then Hudson.
Do you know what any of those mean?
I don't.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, could you replace this one with WA68, please? And then please zoom in to the text of the document and highlight what's written at the top. Did you take this photo, Ms. Gale?
Yes.
Can you please read what's written at the top of this document?
HCN allocation at $0.1.
Do you know what HCN allocation means?
I do not.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could highlight just below the middle of this list the line that starts Andrew Law and Roger Smee, those two lines, and extend to the end of the row, please. Ms. Gale, can you please read these two line items?
Andrew Law, Mileson's friend. And Roger Smee, Mileson's friend.
And what is on the same line of those words?
A dollar amount.
And what's the dollar amount for each of those lines?
I believe the one in line with Andrew Law is either $980,000 or $300,000, and then Roger Smee looks like $250,000. Or the line above.
And Ms. Gale, can you read what's at the top of the column where those figures are?
It says total HCN.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could highlight the line that's 3 above Andrew Law, please. And can you read that line item for us, Ms. Gale?
Yeah, the name is spelled YANPING space WANG. And it looks like the dollar amount is probably the $6,999,800, but it could also be the $20 million.
Do you have any idea what this list represents?
I don't.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could please replace this with WA26. And if you could zoom in around the content of the document, please. Sorry, Ms. Loftus. If you could get the word that's at the top of the document. Thank you. Ms. Gale, was this document in the apartment that day?
Yes.
And what does it say at the top?
Inventory.
What kinds of things are shown on this document?
It looks like motor vehicles.
Looking at the second column from the left, it says year/make. Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, can you zoom in on the third from the bottom, starting with 2021 in the year/make column? That whole line. What's written in the year/make column here second from the left, Ms. Gale?
2021 Lamborghini Aventador.
The column to the, and then there's a picture of a car to its right. The column to the right at the top says state in that. What's in that box?
CT.
What, if anything, do you understand CT to mean?
Connecticut.
Moving to the right side of this line, the box second from the left is in a column entitled Owner. Can you please read what's in the Owner column for the 2021 Lamborghini Aventador?
Yes. The last name is spelled DEFENG, looks like the given name is CAO, with an address. 373 Taconic, TACONIC, Road in Greenwich, Connecticut.
And the box to the right of that is in a column entitled Notes. Can you please read what's in the Notes column for the 2021 Lamborghini Aventador?
It says G Club International Ltd.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could zoom out and then zoom in on the line 4 above that. Starting with 2021 Ducati in the year/make column. Do you know what a Ducati is, Ms. Gale?
I don't.
Okay. What's shown in the photo box for this line item for the 2021 Ducati?
It looks like a motorcycle.
And going back to the Owner box, second from the right here. Can you please read the name and address that's in that box?
It looks like the same name, DEFENG, CAO, at 88 REGENT Street in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Was that the same address you read for the Lamborghini?
Ms. Strofa said, objection.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
No.
And in the Notes column to the right of the name and Jersey City address. Can you read what's in the notes column for the Ducati?
It says, DMV backed up 6 to 8 weeks, New York reg, then will need to be transferred, the last name DEFENG. From Scott.
Mr. Horton said, you can zoom out of that, Ms. Loftus. If you can zoom into the bottom 2 line items on this document. Please. What's written in the top box under year/make?
Camper van.
Do you know what a camper van is?
Yes.
What is a camper van?
It's a, bigger motor vehicle that you can also sleep in.
And what, if anything, is written in the notes column at the end of the camper van line item?
G Club International Ltd. Importing issue. Still in Germany. Nina working on it.
What's written on the line item below the camper van, Ms. Gale?
Bugatti.
What's Bugatti?
I'm pretty sure it's a type of car.
And what, if anything, is in the boxes to the right of the Bugatti line item?
Almost all of them say TBD, and the last one is a question mark.
And in what column is the question mark?
The notes column.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could put up WA30, please. And actually, Ms. Loftus, I'll ask you to put 30 to 33 side by side. Did you take pictures of documents that day, Ms. Gale, that had multiple pages?
Yes, I did.
And would you always take pictures of every page?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Did you sometimes do that?
Absolutely.
The images here at WA30-33, is this a single document?
Yes, I believe so.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could zoom in on WA30 on the top left, please. Ms. Gale, what does it say on the top left of this document?
Summary 2019 to 2023, all donations, Rolf and ROLS.
Do you know what Rolf is?
I don't.
What about ROLS?
I don't.
In the top line for Rolf, can you read the figures that are reported for 2019 and 2020?
Yes. 2019 is $4,210,315. 2020 is $8,916,019.
And the figures in 2019 and 2020 for ROLS below that, please.
2019 is $2,255,391, and 2020 is $4,028,774. Sick.
The line item says total both entities below that. Can you read the value at the very end of that total line, please?
Yes. I'm sorry. Under the YDD column, or for 2019.
The line item that says total both entities, sort of the bottom third of the page. If you could read the value that's at the end of that line on the far right.
Okay. 36,840, I'm sorry. $36,841,050.29.
Ms. Gale, is that figure more or less than $100 million?
Less.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, can you put up WA 34 and 35 together, please? WA 34, on the left side of the screen, Ms. Gale, what's the title? What's written at the top of this document?
G Club Operations LLC Profit and Loss January, December 2022.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, could you zoom in on the line that says income and the line under that? The 5 or so lines under income. Ms. Gale, what is the value reported next to total membership income on this document?
$4,862,954.82.
And what's the bottom value under this income chart?
$90,462,483.16.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could zoom out and then zoom in on line item that says total 64002 events. It's about 5 up from the bottom of this page. Ms. Gale, what's the value on the line that says total 54,000 legal and professional services?
$2,752,228.62.
And what's the value on the line that says total 64002 events?
$2,550,815.84.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could go back to the top of that first page on WA 34. Ms. Gale, what is the date range on this document?
January to December of 2022.
Mr. Horton said, and Ms. Loftus, if you could go now to 35 on the right side of the screen. And blow up the text on this. Ms. Gale, what is the line item? What's the figure reported on the bottom line item for net income for G clubs?
$78,361,488.61.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could put up WA 39, please. Ms. Gale, what is the word that appears on the top left column on this document?
Invoice number.
And could you read the words that are on the right of that line from left to right, after month?
Month. G clubs. G fashion. G music. HCHK tech. FMV. G news. Getter. GEDU. Service fees. And total.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could pull up W85, please. 85, and if you could just zoom in on the text, please. Ms. Gale, what is shown, generally, on this document?
It looks like login information.
And can you read the line items under login info from Chase Geneva to the bottom?
Yes. Geneva is the first one. Chase, SARACA, is the second one. Chase GVT, GTV. I'm sorry, HSBC, leading. Investors, leading. BOA Rolf. The next line is PayPal Rolf. Next line is Stripe Rolf. And then BOA ROLS. And PayPal ROLS.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, on the line under investors.
Leading. The first word is fist. Could you zoom in on the end of that line? It says oldest niece.
Ms. Gale, what is written next to oldest niece?
It says Gladys, GLADYS.
Do you know who Gladys is?
No.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could put up 89 and 90 side by side. And if you could zoom in on the top half of 89 on the left, please, Ms. Loftus. Under the name of the bank at the top, Ms. Gale, what's the title of this document?
Corporate Banking Questionnaire for New Accounts.
And what does it say next to company name a few lines below that?
Holy City HK Ventures.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, looking at 90 on the right now. If you could highlight the two names that are under Director 1 and Director 2 and zoom in, please. And Ms. Gale, what name is under Director 1 for Holy City HK Ventures on this document?
Aaron A. Mitchell.
Do you know who Aaron Mitchell is?
I don't know.
What's the name written under Director 2 for Holy City HK Ventures on this document?
Victor X, Serta.
Do you know who Victor Serta is?
I don't.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could put up 91 and 92 side by side, please. Looking at the document on left, Ms. Gale, 91, what is written in the large font at the top?
Holy City Hong Kong Ventures Ltd.
And it says under that, the undersigned. Being the sole member of the directors of Holy City Hong Kong Ventures Limited. Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could go down to the middle of the page, please, to directors. And Ms. Gale, what does it say under 3, directors?
Note the appointment of Yenping Wang as first director of the company by the first registered agent of the company with effect from 13th day of May, 2021.
Mr. Horton said, and Ms. Loftus, if you could just zoom in on the last line on this page on 91. What's written on the bottom of this Holy City Hong Kong Ventures Limited document?
New Federal State Corporation.
Do you know what the new Federal State Corporation is?
No.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could please replace these with WA 96. And if you could, yes, thank you. What's the subject line? Well, first of all, Ms. Gale, what kind of document is this?
It looks like a printed email.
And what does the subject line say?
Himalaya Exchange username changed.
And could you read the first name and the first letter of the last name on the line?
Alex H.
Can you read the first 3 lines of the body of the email below? And before you do that, what's between the two, from and the body of the email?
There's a like what I assume is a company logo.
And what does it say next to?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to what she assumes.
The court said, sustained.
What, if anything, do you see in the middle of this page? Mr. Horton said, and Ms. Loftus, if you could zoom in around it, please.
It says Himalaya Exchange with a little insignia next to it.
Do you know what Himalaya Exchange is?
I don't.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could blow up the first 3 lines of the email, including the greeting. Could you read the greeting in the first sentence, please, Ms. Gale?
Hi Freedom Media Ventures Limited, comma.
Could you read the first line of the email under that, please?
Yup. Your username and contact email has been changed from alex@hiketech.com to from limited at Proton. Me by an administrator.
Mr. Horton said, Ms. Loftus, if you could pull up 110, please. 110, and if you can zoom in on the top right of this document. Ms. Loftus. What does it say on the top right of this document, Ms. Gale?
ACA.
Do you know what ACA is?
No.
Mr. Horton said, if you could go back to the full document, please, Ms. Loftus. If you could zoom in on under, to whom it may concern, towards the bottom. Could you read the line that starts, this is to certify?
This is to certify the employment details of Wang Yanping, holder of Vanuatu passport No. RV 058876. Are as follows.
And under that it says, yours faithfully. ACA Capital Group Limited. What appears under ACA Capital Group Limited?
A signature.
And what appears under the signature?
The name William J.E., Chief Executive.
Mr. Horton said, if you could please pull up WA 69 and 72 side by side, Ms. Loftus, as well as 114, those 3. What's shown in the item in WA 69?
That's the one on the left.
Yes. That's the item on the left.
Yeah. It's the little green zip pouch from the safe that we saw earlier.
What was inside this green zip pouch in the safe?
Travel documents.
Are those 2 of them on the right?
Yes.
The top one, WA 72, what is that?
A passport.
And whose name is on the passport?
Given name is Yanping, surname is Wang, Wang.
And looking now at the passport below that, 114.
The given name is HO space WAN, surname KWOK.
And was this passport found in the apartment where you were on March 15, 2023?
Yes.
Mr. Horton said, if you could take these down, Ms. Loftus, and put up 76 to 79. So as these go up, Ms. Gale, could you tell us what we're looking at?
Yes. The 76 is a picture of Hermes boxes and receipts. The next one is Hermes scarves and I believe a couple of wallets, not sure what brand. The other photos are the same.
And what's Hermes?
A very expensive brand, I think.
Mr. Horton said, zooming in on the image on the bottom right, Ms. Loftus. At the top of that, what are all of those, Ms. Gale?
More boxes of Hermes.
And were all of these in the apartment that morning?
Yes. Honor.
Mr. Horton said, if I could just have a moment,
The court said, go ahead.
Mr. Horton said, thank you, Your Honor. You can take this down, Ms. Loftus, please. Ms. Gale, approximately how many photographs did you take on March 15, 2023, in this apartment?
I don't remember.
Have we looked at all the photos that you took?
No.
And the photos that were admitted into evidence before and the photos that I showed you today. Did you have any role in selecting those?
No.
And about how many times did you meet with the government, if at all, before you testified today?
A few.
And aside from your testimony today and the photographs you took on March 15, 2023, did you have any other involvement in this case?
I did not.
Mr. Horton said, no further questions, Your Honor.
The court said, cross-examination.
Ms. Strofa said, thank you, Your Honor.
Cross-examination. By Ms. Schrofa.
Good morning, Ms. Gale.
Good morning.
Ms. Gale, you testified on direct that you've worked for the FBI for 5 years. Is that right?
Yes.
The court said, Ms. Schroff, if you would speak into the mic, please.
Ms. Strofa said, sure. And before working for the FBI, who did you work for?
I was an intern with the FBI while I was in college.
So is it fair to say, ma'am, that you've only worked for the FBI?
I had other internships and part-time jobs.
I'm talking about like a full-time job employment.
Yes.
You've only worked for the FBI, correct?
Correct.
And you just testified, when asked how many times you met with the government, you testified a few. Correct?
Yes.
So as an FBI agent, is it fair to say that you would want to keep notes of information that would be the subject of your testimony?
No.
You would not want to have notes so that you can be accurate and full in your testimony?
Mr. Horton said, objection. Asked and answered.
The court said, sustained. So if you'll just ask the question once, Ms. Schroff, and don't repeat it.
Continued on next page. By Ms. Schrofa.
Ms. Gale, did you keep a list of the times that you met with Mr. Horton?
I did not.
Did you keep a list of the length of each meeting with Mr. Horton?
I did not.
Did you keep a list of what you did with Mr. Horton during the meetings?
I did not.
So let me start, if I may, by showing you what is marked as Defense Exhibit 7005. And I'm just going to ask you to look at it, please. Thank you. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
And what is it, please?
It's a photo of notebooks with handwritten notes on them.
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, I move to enter DX 7005 into evidence, please.
Mr. Horton said, Your Honor, may we briefly approach?
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Mr. Horton said, Thank you, Your Honor. What we're anticipating is a comparison of the document that's Defense Exhibit 7005 to a cropped version that we showed. I don't remember the exact exhibit number. We showed a cropped version on this document. There's background on this that's relevant, which is that we had a productive back and forth with defense counsel about the fact that some of the documents which photos were taken with respect to the apartment had some Mandarin on them. So we had a back and forth with them about, we could redact them. We could otherwise make it so that we don't have an issue of foreign language coming into evidence. We had a back and forth about how to do that. We could produce versions of those documents that were altered on agreement to take the Mandarin out. So that's why we showed the document that was cropped that way.
The court said, when you say cropped, you mean portions deleted?
Mr. Horton said, yes. So the 3 notebook image that's on right now as a defense exhibit, we showed the same image. Took out the notebooks that had Mandarin in them. So we showed only a notebook that had English only.
The court said, by cropped you mean literally you cropped the photograph?
Mr. Horton said, that's right. to exclude the Mandarin to avoid the issue. And we understood that was at the request of defense counsel or under agreement with defense counsel.
Ms. Shrofa said, defense counsel asked and very clearly noted the word redacted, not cropped redacted. The word was redacted. What they did is.
The court said, so can you give me the whole sentence with the word redacted?
Ms. Shrofa said, sure. They sent us the document I believe yesterday at some point. I can't remember the time. And it had Chinese language on it. I have the document. You see Chinese language here, up here. They sent us a copy with the translation. We sent it out to have it translated along with other documents to get translated. We haven't had a full response back from the interpreter. We emailed back to the government and said, they gave us an option. Either we use their translation or we use the redacted version. We said no, we cannot agree to a translation without having our translator signing off. So we would agree to a redacted version, not a cropped version, redacted. So you take a piece of paper, redact the Chinese Mandarin language, and you present the evidence. Apparently at 1 o'clock last time, they sent us a new version which they introduced as evidence. I have not seen the new version. And I can show you my email. I only got that version from an associate today while I was in the direct. I emailed the associate back, said please redact the Chinese language and send me the document. What they did in cropping it out is they cropped out CCP. Now CCP I got to say anybody here would know would be relevant, that she wrote it down. And there is no, I have to say that I would be shocked if somebody said the defense wouldn't want the CCP. The tradition of redacted means you redact. You don't crop. So I am entitled to put this in. I never agreed to a cropped version. I never agreed to something excised out. Redacted means redacted. And we've all been lawyers for a long time. I don't think there's any agreement if they ask me for a cropped version. I would not have agreed. Cropped is very different. And you know what lawyers do for a living? We use our words. And we use them precisely. So I think this is fair cross, Your Honor.
Mr. Finkel said, Ms. Shroff did not suggest nor did any member of the defense team suggest, including the associate who is an attorney who was sent the email last night to meet their request about not having foreign language in the evidence. To change it, we would have done so.
The court said, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Including the attorney on the email, is that what you're saying?
Mr. Finkel said, yes, Your Honor. If I may. We had a good faith negotiation and discussion about these images back and forth.
Ms. Shrofa said, no.
Mr. Finkel said, yes, Ms. Shroff.
The court said, please, I need for him to speak, not the two of you.
Mr. Finkel said, we said to the defense, if you want the Mandarin language in, we'll put it in. If you don't want the Mandarin language in, we'll redact it, and we won't put it in. It's up to you. Or we can do translations. They said they didn't want the Mandarin language in, so we modified, cropped this document, redacted on it so the Mandarin language wasn't come in. We did that at their request. Now they're going to take what we did to meet their request and suggest to the jury that we hid information from them. That is entirely inappropriate.
The court said, let's go backwards. You concede that they ask for a redacted document?
Ms. Shrofa said, here's the email.
The court said, wait a minute, Ms. Shroff. Do not speak over me.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, yes. We use the word redacted. That's exactly correct. However, and I think this is important, we had a good faith negotiation with the defense about this issue. And to meet what they requested, we removed the Mandarin. It was easier for this image to do a crop than a redaction.
The court said, that is very, very different. This is a problem. They're entitled to know. The jury is entitled to know that there are words missing.
Mr. Finkel said, but Your Honor, we did that at their request now.
The court said, wait a minute. They requested a redaction, not a cropping out. It's a very different result.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may I just add one thing?
The court said, no, not yet. Mr. Finkel, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, candidly, I'm disappointed in this because we had a discussion with them. And had they said, Can you use the redacted version instead? We would have done that. We weren't trying any gamesmanship here. We weren't trying to cut out CCP or anything like that. We tried to meet their request. I understand Your Honor's point.
The court said, Are there any other documents that were cropped?
Mr. Horton said, I don't believe so, no.
The court said, Everything else was redacted?
Mr. Horton said, correct.
The court said, You're going to have to live with this cross-examination.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, also CCP is in English.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor. Certainly they're not going to be able to argue because the reason we cropped it was to meet their request. They shouldn't be able to argue that we did this to hide anything from the jury, because that's not why we did it. That would be unfair and improper.
The court said, That would be completely unfair. You can say that they left out a portion of the document, but to imply that there was bad faith is improper.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, may I just be heard on that?
The court said yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, Again, here's an email.
Mr. Finkel said, You left it out.
Ms. Schrofa said, Please let me finish.
The court said, Please let her talk.
Ms. Schrofa said, CCP is in English. The alphabet is English. It is not Mandarin. They can crop out the, we agreed even if you want. Here's the email. Just in light of the timing of this witness, we will ask that you simply redact the Mandarin visible in the GXW exhibits you plan to introduce tomorrow, which we understand to be GW, and then we recite them out. CCP is in English.
The court said, Ms. Schroff, I do not need for you to speak over me. This is rude.
Ms. Schrofa said, I'm not speaking over you.
The court said, Yes, you were speaking over me.
Ms. Schrofa said, I don't mean to, Your Honor. I do think CCP is in English.
The court said, So now be quiet. This is a problem. She can cross on this. But you cannot imply that they were looking to hide something because that would be the impression of bad faith. This is an error on their part to have done it this way. It is an error on their part.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, CCP is in English. It's not an error.
The court said, What I am saying is that you may cross, you may say a portion of the document was not shown. And you may bring up the fact that it has this English language and the Mandarin character. That is fine. But to go further and argue that in summation that this was purposely in bad faith, no. You will not be able to do that. We're done. We're done.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, Overruled. Rather, the objection is sustained. Sorry. Go ahead.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, I move to admit DX 7005 into evidence.
Mr. Horton said, Objection.
The court said, I am sorry. Let me clarify. Based upon the sidebar, the prosecution's objection to the admission of this document is overruled. Go ahead.
Defendant's Exhibit 7005 received in evidence.
Ms. Schrofa said, May I publish it to the jury now?
The court said you may. Go ahead. You may.
By Ms. Schrofa.
Ms. Gale, do you recognize this photograph?
I recognize the photo, not the black parts covering it.
You don't recognize the black covering?
Correct.
The redaction?
Correct.
That's fine. And if I could show you what is marked as government exhibit, I believe it was 68.
Mr. Horton said, Your Honor, we're going to object to this as contrary to our understanding of the ruling at sidebar. The purpose of showing.
The court said, I'm sorry. I did not hear what you said, Ms. Schroff.
Ms. Schrofa said, I'll move on, Your Honor.
The court said, Go ahead.
So let me start with the legal pad that says Max, correct?
Yes, it looks like the one on the bottom.
And did you arrange these 3 legal pads this way?
I don't remember.
You were taking photographs to present as evidence to a jury at a trial, correct?
I was taking photographs of whatever the agents gave me that day on the search.
For what purpose?
To have them documented.
For what purpose?
Mr. Horton said, Objection, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
The FBI gathers evidence, correct?
Correct.
And the FBI gathers evidence because it's going to be used against another person in court one day, correct?
Potentially.
And you want the evidence to be accurate, correct?
What do you mean by accurate?
I mean accurate. You want your logs to be accurate, correct?
The photo log.
Yes.
Yes.
And you want your photos to be accurate, correct?
The photos are just of whatever is there.
And complete, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by complete.
Well, is the photograph of the first legal pad that starts with the word Max complete? Can you see the whole page?
No, you can't see the whole page.
Can you see the whole page of the second legal pad? I don't know. It's not legal, but whatever. Office size pad?
You cannot.
And how about the third one?
Yes, the third one you can.
And is it fair to say, Ms. Gale, that the time that you were taking the photographs there was an FBI agent in the apartment?
Correct.
And there was FBI agents in the apartment who carried out the search, correct?
Yes, there were multiple.
And there were multiple agents who put these things out for you to photograph, is that fair?
Yes, they probably said you can take a picture of these.
And you could interact with them because you're all part of the same team, correct?
Correct.
There were no defense lawyers present, correct?
There were not.
It was possible to say, let's just take a photograph of each legal pad separately, correct?
The court said, don't ask her what was possible. I don't want you asking questions that call for speculation.
So you didn't take a photograph of the legal pad in such a way that we could see the entirety of page 1 of the document that starts with Max, correct?
I don't remember if I took a separate photo of it other than this.
How about the second one that says, thank you? Do you recall if you took photos of that?
I don't remember if I took a separate photo.
And let's look at the third document, third legal pad, correct? You see that?
Yes.
And you see there's a lot of handwriting on there, right?
Correct.
And in the corner box you see that little box over there, if I could have it made larger for you. And also the jury, maybe that will help you.
On the right side of the page.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I see that.
What does it say over there? Could you read that for me?
Civil rights.
How about below that?
It says SEC, but the rest is redacted.
And how about below that?
In the box.
Yes.
It either says CCP or COP and then it's redacted.
So it says, what is right next to the word CCP? What's next to that?
A redaction and then.
And then a tick mark, correct?
I think it says IA, and then the pound sign, and could be a check mark.
Let's go back to the top part of the page. You see the date up there, October 17th, Saturday, right?
Yes.
And you don't know what year, correct?
I don't know if that's a month and a day or a month and a year. October 17th could be either.
It could be October 2017 or it could be October 17th. That's your testimony?
Correct.
And also the same for the other one, right? October 19th, right?
Yes.
Could be 2019, right?
Yeah.
More logically, it would be October 17th, which is a Saturday.
Mr. Horton said, objection to the commentary.
Ms. Schrofa said, it's a question.
The court said, sustained.
Okay. October 17th is a Saturday, so what would October 18th be?
Sunday.
And what would October 19th be?
Monday.
So let's move down. Just please stay on that same page. The third one, third legal pad or pad. Whatever it's called. And if you could read for me, you see where it says G Club EIN?
I do.
Do you know what that means?
I do not.
And how about G Fashion, and then there's a phone number, correct? Am I reading that correctly? Is it a phone number?
It looks like a phone number, yes.
Do you know what that means?
I don't.
And then it says G Club, and it looks like, I don't know what that word is, Square, PayPal, and Wire, right?
Yes.
Now could I zoom out of that full page where it says CCP on the corner? Did you by any chance flip that page and take a photo of the next one?
I don't remember.
Now, When you reviewed this photograph with Mr. Horton, was it one amongst many that you reviewed with him?
I don't remember if I reviewed this one with him. Are you talking about on direct?
No. I mean on the times you met with him in your office or his office. I don't know where?
I don't know if we reviewed this one.
Let's look at the one that had. Let's look at number 68, okay. You see this one? Do you remember if you reviewed this one with him in his office?
I don't remember.
And he asked you on direct, right?
Yes, we did review this on direct.
So look at the right-hand column for me if you don't mind.
Yes, the total HCN column.
And you testified on direct that these are dollar amounts, correct?
I did.
You have no knowledge that they are in fact dollar amounts, correct?
At the top it says USD, which typically stands for US dollar.
But look at the column on the right under which these numbers appear. Does it say over there USDO?
No.
What does it say?
Total HCN.
And what does HCN mean to you?
I don't know.
So are these numbers, right? They're under a column that says total HCN, right?
Correct.
And this is a number of HCN, not dollars, right?
I guess.
There's no need to guess. There's no dollar sign before 250,000 or whatever that number is, right?
There is no dollar sign.
Mr. Horton said, "Objection, Your Honor."
The court said, "Don't testify."
Is there a dollar sign before this column?
Mr. Horton said, asked and answered.
The court said, "Sustained."
Is there a pound sign?
No.
Is there a sterling sign?
No.
Is there a yen sign?
Mr. Horton said, "Objection."
The court said, "Sustained."
So the dollar amount on this column is at 10 cents each, right?
Yes.
So you can take that down. And if we could just show Ms. Gale the photos of the cash that the government showed her. You remember testifying about the cash that was found in the apartment?
I do.
By any chance, do you know whose apartment it was?
I don't remember.
During the times that you met with Mr. Horton, did you discuss whose apartment it was?
We did not.
Did you discuss how many people lived there?
We did not.
Did you discuss how you came to take the photographs of the cash?
Somebody probably found it in the search and asked me to take pictures of it.
When you say probably, does that mean you really don't remember?
No, I do remember that somebody asked me to take photos of the cash when they found it in the safe.
When you took this photograph, did you make a note as to where you were when you took the photograph?
In the photo log it should say what room this was in.
My question was, did you take a note?
Mr. Horton said, "Objection."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
I was not doing the photo log, no, so I didn't take a note personally.
And do you know how that pouch was in the safe when it was first opened?
It looked like it does in the photo when we...
Well, were you there when they opened the safe?
I don't remember if I was in the room, but I was in the apartment.
So you don't know if it looked like this cause you weren't there, correct?
They had me photograph it before they move anything.
Ma'am, please, could you listen to my question?
Mr. Horton said, "Objection," asked and answered.
Ms. Schrofa said, "I moved to strike actually. It's non-responsive."
Mr. Horton said, "It was responsive. We object."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
Let me try it this way. Was the safe locked?
I don't remember.
How was the safe opened?
I don't remember.
Do you mean you don't remember, or do you mean you don't know?
Mr. Horton said, "Objection."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
I don't remember.
So you were there when it was opened, but you no longer remember how it was opened?
I don't remember if I was in the room at the time that it was opened and found. Or if I was in a different room, and they called me when they found it and opened it.
So I just want to understand the process. If you were taking a photograph in a different room and they opened the safe, would they just simply ask you to abandon that task and run to the safe?
The court said, "So you cannot ask would they. It is a question of did they."
Did they?
I don't remember if I was in the room or not. If I wasn't, they would have held the safe and not touched it until I finished whatever task I was doing, and then come and take the picture the way it looked before they pulled stuff out of it.
Let's try this. You said they would not have touched it, correct? That's what you just said, right?
I don't remember.
So it's possible they could have touched it, correct?
Mr. Horton said, objection.
The court said, so don't ask for speculation.
You see the photograph right next to the one on the left?
With the pouch opened, yes.
So the pouch was moved, correct?
Yes.
It was opened, correct?
Yes.
And then the photo was taken of the open pouch, correct?
Correct.
And sitting here today, you cannot tell the jury if any denominations were taken out, correct? Before you took the photograph 'cause you weren't there?
I might have been. I just don't remember.
How many denominations are in this particular photograph?
I don't know.
Do you know what year those notes are?
I don't.
Do you know if they're from 2003?
I don't.
What about the red envelopes? Do you see those?
I see them.
Do you know what they signify in the Chinese culture?
I do not.
Do you know what the design was on each one of the envelopes?
I don't.
Let's look at the next photograph of the money. You see how it's all fanned out now?
Yes.
Who fanned it out?
The agents who found it probably did.
If you don't know, you can just say I don't know. Probably is not a good answer.
Mr. Horton said, objection.
The court said, don't speculate, don't guess, don't say what might have been. If you know the answer, say it. If you don't know, you could say that or you don't remember.
The witness said, okay.
The court said, go ahead.
You don't know, correct?
Correct.
And there are denominations in 20s, correct?
Yes.
Denominations in 50s, correct?
Yes.
Denominations in 100s, correct?
Yes.
And on the corner over there you can see it's a foreign currency, correct?
Correct.
And there is a document on the right side which is in Mandarin, correct?
Yes.
You have no idea what it says, correct?
Correct.
And obviously the money wasn't found on the bed, right?
It came from the pouch in the safe, correct?
Do you know who put it on the bed?
I don't.
Now, you were shown a document or two about passports. Do you remember that?
I do.
And I'm assuming you can take this one down. Thank you. And you testified that you did not know any of the people that were depicted in the passports, correct?
Correct.
And you simply took the photos because some agent told you to. Is that right?
Right.
And you remember spelling out for Mr. Horton, Vanuatu, Vanuatu, correct?
I think so.
And do you know what that is?
I don't.
Do you know if it's a country?
I have no idea.
When you read it, did you then look it up?
I didn't.
If I could go to 76, please. You testified about this photograph, correct?
I did.
And when you testified about this photograph, you said it is Hermes, a very expensive brand, I think. Correct?
I did say that.
Now, what are the things below each box here?
Tags or receipts.
Do you know if they are in fact tags or they're receipts, or are you guessing?
I don't know for sure.
Do these appear to be gift boxes to you?
I don't know for sure.
Let's look at the next photograph. You see this photograph here. I can't see the number. I think it's 77. Did you unpack each box?
I don't think all of them were unpacked.
Move to strike. Let me ask you again, please.
The court said, so the answer is stricken. Go ahead and answer what she's asking. Listen to the question and respond to the specific question that's being asked.
Did you unpack each box?
I remember helping unpacking some of them, yes.
Were they all tied with a bow on top?
I believe some of them were.
So let's show you 78. I think the next photo of the scarves. You see right there in this photograph right below the bag. Do you see that?
The bows?
Right.
Yes.
Those were the bows that were used to tie the boxes, right?
Yes.
And that says Hermes on it?
I can't see, but yeah, I think so.
So let's just look at this photograph. Let's look at the one that's brown, shall we? Is it your recollection that this is how the scarf was in the box?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure. You have a recollection that the label was up top?
Mr. Horton said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Was the label up top?
Mr. Horton said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Let's look at the orange one. What does the card say?
I'm sorry. I can't read that.
Did you take a photograph of what the card itself said?
I don't remember if I did. The bottom, the last word under before the signature says holidays.
Let's just scroll down. Let's look at the one. You see the one that's gray with those pretty little flowers over there?
In the middle.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it your recollection that the label was showing when you opened the box?
I don't remember specifically, but I don't remember moving any of the scarves within the box.
You didn't open each box, you just testified on cross, correct?
I helped with some of them, correct.
And you don't know which ones you helped with, correct?
Correct, I don't remember.
Can you just scroll down? You see the wallets that are placed near the box?
Yes.
Did you place them there?
I don't remember.
Do you know if they're in fact Hermes wallets?
I don't know.
I just want the full photograph again one last time. You see on the top right corner and the left corner are both showing the same brown tape, correct?
I'm sorry. The top corners of the photo.
The top corner right above the brown scarf, and on the right-hand side near that rainbow-colored scarf?
Oh, the ribbons.
That's a much better word. The gift ribbons are the box ribbons. Did you collect each ribbon for each box?
I don't remember.
Did they have you take a photo of all the ribbons on all the boxes that were found in this apartment?
I don't remember.
Did you take a photograph of each card that you found in the apartment, or you only? I'll stop there. Did you take a photograph of each card that you found?
I don't remember.
You can take that down. Thank you. May I go to 41, please? You testified about this photograph as well, right?
I did.
And they asked you, Mr. Horton did over there, what does MK stand for, right?
The court said, 1 moment, please.
Juror said, are we supposed to be seeing this?
The court said, these are up for the jurors?
Juror said, we don't see anything.
The court said, so we'll put that up.
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, may I just go back if the jury didn't see it? I'm not going to relive the testimony. But may I publish each of the photographs to them?
The court said yes.
Ms. Strofa said, if I could just go back. Can the jurors see?
Juror said, yes.
Ms. Strofa said, if I may, Your Honor. May I just point out that's the card?
The court said, let's just identify the exhibit if you would.
Ms. Strofa said, thank you. This is Exhibit 78 that depicts the scarves, the labels, and the ribbons and the wallets. If I could just have the jurors see 77. These depict the scarves and the wallets that are on top. And this is 76 that the testimony that it was unclear to the witness.
Mr. Horton said, objection to Ms. Schroff testifying.
The court said, Ms. Schroff, if you'll speak up.
Ms. Strofa said, I don't want to repeat testimony. This was covered.
Mr. Horton said, objection, she's summarizing the testimony. That's improper.
The court said, do you have a question, Ms. Schroff?
By Ms. Schrofa.
Are you a special agent? Should I call you a special agent?
No, the title is SOS.
So this is the bottom of the boxes reflect either a tag or a receipt and you don't know which one of the two. Correct?
Yes, that's what I said before.
I'll just continue, Your Honor. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. If I could just go to. I believe I was at the kitchen with the USBs. There we go. Thank you. When you took this photograph, did you have any knowledge of how old these USBs were?
No, I did not.
And you see the label over there on the right, copy Jessica's files, correct?
I do see that.
Do you know who Jessica is?
I do not.
And on the very right corner there is another USB with red handwriting on it, correct? Do you see that in the corner?
Yes.
Do you know what that says?
I do not.
And if you could just look at the left-hand side of the photograph. Those are food items, correct? Or you tell me what it is. What is that, do you know?
I don't know.
And if you could just zoom back out. If I could just look at the photograph right after. You see how all of these USBs are placed in a line?
I do see that.
What is the one on the right-hand corner, the rightmost with the green writing?
The biggest part of it says NYC.
Do you know what was on there?
I don't.
And, obviously, you had no role to play in downloading these USBs or anything like that, correct?
Correct, I did not.
Now, if I could look at number 26. You testified about this document, correct?
I did.
Is it fair to say that you reviewed this document with Mr. Horton in his office?
I have seen it before.
How many times?
Once.
And did you go through what he would have you read in court today?
No.
So he would just in court highlight something, and you would read it out loud for the jury?
Mr. Horton said, objection.
The court said, sustained.
You remember your direct examination?
I do.
So if you could just highlight any one line, just pick one. So your role was to read out loud the row that he highlighted, right?
That's what I did earlier, yes.
And you have no understanding of any of the data on these documents, correct?
I do not.
We can take that down. Now, if I could just have document number 30. You see that number on the corner up top?
The handwritten number.
Yes, please.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
It says 2/10.
What is your understanding of February 10th?
I don't know.
You have no idea what it means?
There's multiple options of what it could be.
Okay, that's fair enough. Thank you. You can take that down. You were shown documents number 91 and 92. Correct, and if I could have those pulled up.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that you don't know what this document means, right?
Correct.
Somebody told you to take a photograph. You took a photograph?
Correct.
And then you came here and read it out loud?
Correct.
Okay, you can take that down. Thank you. Now, Mr. Horton asked you during his direct testimony that there were photos that you took that were not introduced into evidence. Correct?
Yes.
You didn't choose which photos to show at trial, correct?
I did not.
And you did not exclude any yourself, correct?
Correct.
And you stated that you took these photographs on March 15th, 2023, correct?
Yes.
You have no idea what happened on March 15th, 2023, correct?
Other than what I was doing that day.
Yes.
I don't.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Could I just have one moment, Your Honor?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Gale, you recall seeing some photographs of wallets that were shown to you?
Yes.
Did you open the wallets at all?
I don't remember.
Do you know what was in the wallets?
I don't remember.
When was the last time you met with Mr. Horton prior to your testimony today?
Last week.
How about this morning?
We didn't meet this morning.
How about yesterday?
No.
Did you speak to him yesterday?
I did see him, yes.
I didn't hear that.
I did see him, but we didn't have a meeting.
You saw him?
Yes.
But you didn't speak?
Correct, we didn't have a meeting. I was waiting to see if I would get called up here.
And before that, when was the last time you prepared for your testimony with Mr. Horton?
I believe it was last week.
And did you prepare with anybody other than Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Who else?
There was another attorney that came in to ask a couple of questions.
Do you see the attorney in court today?
She's not at the table.
So it was an attorney that is not at this table now? I just want to make sure I understood.
Correct.
And was there an FBI agent present?
Yes, there was.
Which FBI agent?
I don't see him sitting in court right now.
Do you know his name?
Nick. I don't remember his last name.
For how long did you meet?
It depends. I think it was around half an hour.
And is it fair to say that you did not review any of the photographs with anyone at the defense table, right?
Correct.
Ms. Shrofa said, "I have nothing further, Your Honor."
The court said redirect.
Redirect examination. By Mr. Horton.
Ms. Gale, about how many people were involved in the search of the apartment that morning?
I don't remember the exact number.
About how many was it?
More than 5, less than 20.
Did those different people have different roles during the search?
Yes.
Ms. Loftus, can you pull up GX Stip 4, please? GX Stip 4, which is in evidence, says that on March 15, 2023, special agents and other FBI employees executed a lawful search of 188 East 64th Street in apartment 1601, New York, New York. And it says that during the course of that search, FBI personnel took photographs of interior spaces of 188 64th Street, apartment 1601, New York, New York, and also lawfully seized items, documents and electronic devices. GXWA 1 through, and it should say WA 135.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor. May we have a sidebar because this is clearly beyond the scope."
The court said, overruled. You may continue.
Mr. Horton said, the stipulation the parties agreed to continues, GXWA 1 through GX, and it should say WA 135 are fair and accurate photographs of interior spaces of 188 64th Street, apartment 1601. That were lawfully captured by an FBI photographer on March 15, 2023 when conducting a search. Is that FBI photographer you, Ms. Gale?
Yes.
Ms. Loftus, can you put up WA 30 through 33, and zoom in on WA 30, please? Ms. Gale looking at WA 30 on the top left. It says Summary 2019 to 2023, all donations Rolf and ROLS. Is that a full-page document right there?
Yes.
And WA 30 through 33, are those 4 pages stapled together in a single document?
They are.
Ms. Gale, the red Lamborghini you testified about on the document before. Do you know where the FBI found that Lamborghini?
I don't.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection."
The court said, overruled.
Mr. Horton said, no further questions.
The court said recross.
Recross-examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
Let's put that stipulation back up, please. Had you read this before today?
The search warrant.
That's not a search warrant, ma'am. I'm asking you about the document that is before you as GX Stip 4.
No, I hadn't.
You hadn't read it, correct?
Correct.
So when Mr. Horton highlighted and read it out loud to you, he was just reading you a document, right?
Yes.
You have no understanding on your own of what this document is about, correct?
I've never seen it before.
In fact, you just called it a search warrant, correct?
Yeah.
Let's look at the last page. Do you see that?
I see it.
Do you know who Siddhartha Kamraju is?
No.
You can take it down. Let's go through 30 to 33. Mr. Horton asked you questions about this document, correct?
Yes.
This document was laid out for you this way, correct?
Yes.
On the left-hand side, right?
Yes.
Sitting here today, do you recall who moved page 1 over, who flipped it over?
I do not.
How about page 2? Do you recall if anybody flipped it over?
I don't remember.
Do you know if there's anything at the very end of the document at the backside that is written on there?
I don't know.
Do you know if there are any handwritten notes at the very end of that document?
I don't know.
You don't know anything about any of this other than what he showed you, correct?
Mr. Horton said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Do you see 2 tenths on the corner on the front page?
I do see it.
Is there any such designation on any of the remaining pages?
Based on the photographs, it doesn't look like there is.
You recall on cross-examination being shown a document that said October 17th and 1/19th, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Horton said, objection to the scope.
The court said, overruled. You may go ahead.
And you recall testifying you couldn't even say if that was October 17th or October of 2017, correct?
It could have been either without looking at the bottom one.
Ms. Shrofa said, I have nothing further.
Mr. Horton said, just briefly, Your Honor.
Redirect examination. By Mr. Horton.
Ms. Loftus, can you put up GXWA 30 please and zoom in on the top right? This document is Summary 2019 through 2023 all donation. Ms. Loftus, can you zoom in on the top right? Ms. Gale. What was the date, the month, and the year?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. She never testified it's a date.
Mr. Horton said, it's in evidence, Your Honor.
The court said, I haven't heard the question.
What was the date of the search you performed, the month and the date?
It was March 15th.
And what does this say on this document?
2-10.
Mr. Horton said, no further questions.
The court said, well, you're asking her what those the red numbers and slash say. Is that your question?
Mr. Horton said, that's correct. What it says on the document.
Ms. Shrofa said, could I just see the first page again?
Recross examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
It's stapled, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall sitting here today if there was another stapled package that said 1 of 10?
I don't recall.
Do you recall if there was one that said 3 of 10?
I don't recall.
Mr. Horton said, objection.
The court said, overruled.
How about 4 of 10?
I don't remember.
5 of 10, 6 of 10, 7 of 10, and 10 of 10. Do you remember any of that?
No.
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Horton said, nothing further.
The court said, you may step out of the courtroom. Thank you, and the prosecution may call its next witness.